Hello and welcome to my channel. We're still in the cardiovascular system, so let's begin. Uh, the artery, of course, it's a blood vessel that takes the blood away from the heart to distribute blood to all the tissues of the body and organs of the body, like the lungs, the brain, and whatever organs there are. And they carry oxygenated blood and nutrients. The exception for that is the pulmonary artery and the umbilical arteries. They are called arteries, although they carry deoxygenated blood, because the structure of the wall is like an artery. They are high pressure system. So the exceptions are the pulmonary and the umbilical arteries. The arteries, they deliver oxygen and nutrients to all cells, as well as removal of carbon dioxide and waste products, and to deliver it through the capillary bed, of course, to the venules and then the veins to return it back to the heart. This also responsible for the maintenance of the optimum blood pH and distributing proteins and cells to the cells of the human immune system. The structure of an artery: the outermost layer of the artery or the vein, it's similar to the artery, is called the tunica externa or tunica adventitia, and composed of collagen fibers and elastic tissue, while the largest arteries containing what's so-called the vasa vasorum, which are small blood vessels that supply the wall of the big artery itself. We mentioned that before. Inside this layer, the tunica externa, is the tunica media, or simply called media. It's made up of smooth muscle, as you can see, elastic tissue also, and collagen fibers. The innermost layer is a layer of flat cells resting on a basement membrane, and it's in direct contact with the flow of blood, is called the tunica intima, or simply the intima. It's made up of endothelial cells and the supporting layer of elastin-rich collagen in elastic fibers. The hollow internal cavity of the artery in which the blood flows is called lumen. So tunica externa, tunica media, and tunica interna. Don't forget that. This is another drawing to show you the structure of an artery. The tunica externa at the outside, then a lamina as a basement membrane for the smooth muscles of the tunica media. The lamina is like a membrane of elastic fibers surrounding the smooth muscle layer, the tunica media. Then another layer of lamina, elastic lamina, upon which rests the endothelial cells lining the cavity of the heart. This is the basement membrane of the endothelial cells that lines the artery. Functions of the artery, of course, it's to carry blood oxygenated and full of nutrients to the body. Coronary arteries also aid the heart in pumping blood by sending oxygenated blood to the heart. They carry it away from the heart, except for the pulmonary arteries, which carry blood to the lungs for oxygenation. And you know all that usually the veins that carry deoxygenated blood. The pulmonary artery carries blood from the heart to the lungs where it receives oxygen. It's unique because the blood is not oxygenated as it hasn't yet passed through the lungs. The other unique artery is the umbilical artery, which carries deoxygenated blood from a fetus to its mother to be oxygenated in the placenta. So these are the two exceptions, and the structure of these two arteries, they are two vessels, I mean, they are the same structure as an artery, not a vein. Arteries, they are the high pressure system, means they have blood pressure higher than other parts of the circulatory system. The pressure varies during the cardiac cycle, means during systole and diastole of the heart. It's highest when the heart contracts and lowest when the heart relaxes. This variation produces the pulse pressure or the pulse, which can be felt in different areas of the body like the carotid, the radial, the posterior tibial, the dorsalis pedis artery. You will be asked about areas of feeling a pulse. Also, arterioles have the greatest collective influence on both local blood flow and overall blood pressure. They are the nozzles that adjust the blood pressure because of their muscular wall. We said before that as you go away from the heart, the muscles increase and the elastic tissue decreases. The combination of the heart output, means the cardiac output, and systemic vascular resistance, referred to as collective resistance of all the body's arterioles, are the principal determinants of the arterial blood pressure. And this is the pulse wave, as you can see here. This is the typical shape of the arterial pulse wave. Systemic arteries are the arteries including the peripheral arteries of the systemic circulations, which is the part of the cardiovascular system that carries oxygenated blood away from the heart to the body. Systemic arteries can be subdivided into two types, muscular and elastic, according to their composition, of course. And the larger arteries are generally elastic, and the smaller ones are generally muscular. They deliver their blood to the arterioles and then to the capillaries, where the exchange of nutrients and gases occur. And arterioles help in regulating blood pressure, as mentioned before, by the variable contraction of the smooth muscle of their walls. The biggest artery in the body is the aorta. It's the first artery after the heart. It arises from the left ventricle of the heart via the aortic valve. As it branches, the arteries in turn branch. They become successively smaller until they reach the arteriolar level and the capillaries level, which in turn empty their blood into the venules after the exchange, of course. The first branches of the aorta are the coronary arteries, which supplies the heart itself from a dilation at or a funnel-shaped bulge at the side of the artery is called the coronary, the sinuses of the coronary artery. Um, um, these follow by branches of the aortic arch, namely the brachiocephalic on the right side, which divides into right common carotid and right subclavian, and on the left side, as it arches over the left main bronchus, is the left common carotid and left subclavian arteries. This is the shape of the aorta, as you can see here. First, we have the ascending aorta, the arch of the aorta, the descending aorta, which is divided into thoracic part and abdominal part, and then it ends at approximately the level of L4 by dividing into right and left common iliac arteries. The capillaries are the smallest blood vessels and are part of the microcirculation where the exchange occurs, and the driving forces for this exchange is the hydrostatic pressure of the blood flow and the osmotic pressure difference than the outside. The osmotic pressure pulls is a pulling in force, and the hydrostatic pressure is pushing out force. The microvessels have a width of a single cell in diameter to aid in the fast and easy diffusion of gases, sugars, and nutrients. Capillaries have no smooth muscle in the surrounding them, in their walls. They are a simple layer of endothelium, and have a diameter less than that of red blood cells. So the red cell must squeeze itself. The healthy red blood cell must squeeze itself in the capillary to pass through. So they become distorted or squeezed in shape. The small diameters of the capillaries provide a relatively large surface area for the exchange of gases and nutrients. This is a drawing of the capillary bed. As you can see, this is an arteriole that gives off the capillaries, guarded by what's so-called the precapillary sphincter, and then through the capillary bed, the venules arise to become veins at the end. Sometimes you will find an arteriovenous anastomosis, especially for heat exchange, as we explained before. The clinical significance: systemic arterial pressures are generated by the forceful contractions of the heart, left ventricle. High blood pressure or hypertension causes arterial damage. The healthy resting pressures or the mean systemic pressures typically under 100 millimeter mercury and above the surrounding atmospheric pressure. To withstand and adapt to the pressures within, the arteries are surrounded by smooth muscle, which have the extensive elastic and inelastic connective tissue. The pulse pressure, as shown here, being the difference between systolic and diastolic pressure, and you all know that the normal blood pressure is 120/80 average. 120 means the systolic pressure and 80 means the diastolic pressure. The 120 reflects the strength of the heart muscle and the elasticity of the arteries because it's systole, and the 80 reflects the blood volume accommodated by the heart during diastole. Over time, factors such as elevated arterial blood sugar, especially as seen in diabetes mellitus, lipoprotein, cholesterol, lipoproteins and cholesterol, high blood pressure, stress, and smoking are all implicated in damaging both the endothelium and walls of the arteries, resulting in atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is a disease marked by hardening of the arteries, and this hardening may predispose to dissection of the arteries, like the coarctation of the aorta, for example. This is caused by atheroma or plaque in the artery wall, and is a buildup of cell debris. As you can see here, these are the stages of the formation of the plaque or atheroma that causes that is part or the unique of the process of atherosclerosis, with progressive narrowing of the lumen of the heart, and of course this affects the strength of the wall of the vessel. The buildup of lipids that contain cholesterol and fatty acids, and also calcium deposits, and a variable amount of fibrous connective tissue. These are the stages of the development of the atheroma occluding the artery at the end. I hope you got the maximum benefit from this lecture, and thank you very much for watching.